Okay, my friends, so what we're going to do here is we're going to revisit an idea we looked at in class, which is, okay, you can trust the average, which means you can trust the standard deviation, which means what? Like, what do you get from that? And this is actually a cornerstone to what we're going to be doing the rest of the course together, so that's why I want to spend some time looking at it in this quiz. All right, so here's just a generic histogram I dropped in. Probably the same one that y'all got when you dropped in your histogram. I'm going to make a couple adjustments. I'm going to start by adding those data labels like we did in class. I kind of like having those. That way I can delete this axis here. I'm not going to add the labels on the horizontal and the vertical or a title. I know I asked you to do that on your quiz, but I'm not going to do it just because that might detract a little bit from the mathematical idea that I want to get at in this quiz. Okay. Now, I'm going to goof around with the horizontal axis a little bit. I'm going to goof a little bit with the number of bins. What I want to try to do is get the average kind of like a divider in the middle. So I'm going to, let's make 20, see what that does. Now, 20 is not bad. I'm going to make a little bit, make a few more, maybe 25. All right, that's not terrible. Maybe fewer. 22. Oh, okay, bear with me here. I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. Maybe I'll go lower than that, 19 maybe. Okay, 19's not bad. I'm going to go with 19. So what I did was I picked a number of bins, and there's more than one number of bins that would work in this case, that represented where the average at 40 would be right down the middle here, if that makes sense. Right down the middle. Okay. And why am I going to do that? Well, the idea we looked at in class this past week was the idea of not just the standard deviation, which is the average distance all the data is from the sample average, but a range, let's spell range right, range of one standard deviation. Okay, make that a little bigger so it fits. Okay, and the idea of that was a high and a low value. So to find the low value, you take the average minus the standard deviation, which in this case would be 30, excuse me. And to find the high value, you take the average plus, which would be 40 plus 10, which would be 50. Now, we learned something in class that I wanted to revisit in this quiz, and we're going to revisit this on the next couple questions too. And the idea is, what percent of data are within that range? So here's where it gets fun. What we're going to look at is we're going to look, starting with the average, which is right here in the middle. I'm going to re-highlight some of these bars. So I'm going to click and then click again. So that, ooh, oh, that was fun. It changed it to just blue. I was actually going to change it to a totally different color. Yellow. Okay, that worked. What that tells me, dear friends, is that all of those data points from 37 to 40 are within this range. And hopefully you agree that they are all within that range, right? They're all within that range. 37, 38, 39, and 40 are all within that range. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, Sean, we learned in class that 37 with the parentheses means it's not quite there, and 37 with the brackets means that it is. We'll deal with that momentarily, I promise. That's a mathematical, kind of a goofy little mathematical thing that we can and will deal with. Okay. What other bars are completely within 30 to 50? Okay, well, this one right next to the one we just highlighted was. That one clearly is, right? How about 35 to 37? Yep, they are. How about 43 to 40? Yep, 43 to 46 is. Let's make that yellow. Okay. 46 to 49? Absolutely. I'm going to highlight that one too. Whoops. Highlight that one. Home highlight. How about 32 to 35? Yes. Okay, so far, all of those are definitely within one standard deviation. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting. And here's where I don't really want to highlight it. The next bars out, which would be the 29 to 32, and in this case, the 49 to 52, they are partially in there, right? They're partially in there. Not all of them are in there. So let's look at the left one here, the 29 to 32. Now, of those four numbers, only 3 of those 4 are actually in one standard deviation, right? The 29 is too small. So the 30, 31, and 32 are within one standard deviation. So that means of the 45 that are up here, it's only 3/4 of that are going to be included in this yellow. And I'm going to try to do this in the Camtasia edit right here. And I'll try to leave that up the entire time. Okay. Same kind of thing goes on the other side, except it's only half the values, right? Because if you look at the other bar, the 49 to 52, it's only going to be 49 and 50 and not the 51 and 52. So only this much of that bar is going to be within one standard deviation. So how many total data points are within one standard deviation? Well, I'll make a little here. How about number of data points? Just a little bit larger. Okay, I'll put within as well, so that way you can see it within. Okay, so I know I'll start with the full bars. So I know that's 51 plus another 51 right next to it, plus the 67, plus the 59, plus the 71, plus the 59. Okay, I know those are all in it. But now I got to take some of the fractional ones, these ones that I had to Camtasia edit. So I'm going to take 3/4 of that 45, and I'm going to take half of that 41. And that tells us that just about 412 data points are within the one standard deviation. Okay. Now, that in and of itself is not interesting. And that's not what the quiz doesn't stop there. Because now what we're going to look at is what percent of the data points are within. What percent of the 10? I am all capsing you. What? You know what? What the hell? All caps. Make it yellow, make it bold, make the font bigger. This is actually the point. The point of this is, look at that percentage. So what we have to do is look at that 412.25 and then realize how many data points there are. And I believe there are 589 data points. I just clicked on the B real quick, and you'll notice down here it says 590. That's because it's actually counting the ages, the label at the top, ages of patients as well. So if I select that and look at 590, I just have to take away the label, and then it's 589. Okay, so knowing that, we do 412 divided by 589. And I get about 70%. If I change that to a decimal, that's about 70%. Okay, what I'm going to ask you to do in the next couple questions on this quiz are do the same percentages for 2 and 3 standard deviations. And then we're going to regroup.